Hello everyone, Bucky here and welcome back to another Aska guide. Today we'll be going over the 4 mini-bosses that are currently in the game, their lore, where to find them and the best strategy to defeat them. If your strategy differs from mine, then leave a comment and share the wisdom. To make the fights both fair and reflective more of the early game, we will be fighting without armour. Our combat skill will be as close to 0 as possible, though clearing out enemies beforehand will skill you up occasionally. And our weapon of choice will be the spiked wooden club and simple shield. The spiked wooden club is craftable from your basic craft menu and is a slight upgrade to the basic wooden club and is definitely something you can get your hands on in the first couple of days. The simple shield is, in all honesty, absolute dog water and it will break when sneezed on, but it does have a few niche uses that can actually save you in a pinch. And then it will break. Buff wise, we're going to be napping at the Chieftain's Hut before we head out for that juicy stamina and strength boost. We will also be making sure we are fed and hydrated, but the buffs from the food and drink are kind of meh, not really anything to plan around since they don't last long at all. And healing wise, we'll just be grabbing whatever onions and garlic we come across along the way since these do not last long in your bag at all. Finally, each of these mini-bosses drops a specific artifact that can be used to build an elemental runestone. If you want to learn more about those and how best to utilise their insane buffs, then check out this guide here. Alright then, let's get started. Countless others have fallen prey to the curse of the Jotun, losing their own spirit and essence in the process, becoming nothing more than weak tools to be wielded by the enemies of the gods. But not Haugar. For all his torment, he retains part of his former self, the ashes of a formidable warrior and labourer that still spark fury when disturbed. Haugar the Relentless, this poor, unfortunate soul, is found at shipwrecks scattered along the coast along with his crew. Make sure to clear the area of any wights and wisps prior to summoning him to ensure a fair fight. Bosses are summoned by destroying these 2 disgusting little things here. Fenrir's is different, but we'll touch on that later. Haugar has 2 basic attacks, a swipey swipe and a pincer slash that will knock you on your ass. For his signature attack, Haugar will retreat some distance before turning around and charging you. If hit, you again are knocked on your ass. The best way to avoid Haugar's attacks are, not surprisingly, with a well-timed dodge. You can also use the shield to block them, but don't expect it to last that long. The best way to defeat Haugar is to use his strength against him. When he winds up for a charge, get behind a rock. This will trick him into running into the rock and not you, where he'll take a small amount of health damage, but more importantly, a small amount of stun damage. If, after smashing into a rock, he winds up for another charge, simply reposition and goad him back into the rocks. If he instead starts walking after you, just levy a few regular hits against him to stop his stun meter refreshing. He'll eventually back off and start charging again. Once Haugar's bashed himself against the rocks a few times, he will become stunned, at which point you can land several regular hits and end on a power hit to knock him down. Then simply back away and goad him back into charging. Then it's simply a case of rinse and repeat. And yes, since Haugar does take a small portion of physical damage when he hits a rock, it is entirely possible to defeat him without throwing a single punch. Once defeated, Haugar drops the water artifact. Unlike their skeleton counterparts, the Draugr descend from an older, prouder race. What servants of the old faith now call Draugr were in fact similar to a caste of nobles, granted great power by the Jotun to rule over the lesser human clans. Banemann was one of these mighty lords, who proved himself as a capable commander and great leader of his people. The Jotun's blood corruption took its toll, and soon his estate, armies and servants were returned to the earth. Jarl Banemann can be found in the large Draugr fields along with his loyal soldiers and is best hunted during the day because when the sun is up, Draugr become encased in rock, breaking free only at sunset or when disturbed by a nearby presence. Hunting the Jarl during the day, therefore, affords you the luxury of picking off his men one by one. Once the area is clear and you've summoned the Jarl, do not be fooled by his size. Banemann is fast, bloody fast. He has 3 main attacks, a swipe, a jumping thrust, and his signature whirlwind move, which actually is pretty cool, isn't it? Both his basic swipe and jumping attack do roughly the same damage, though the jumping attack will knock you on your ass if you hit. Though these can be blocked, your shield will break on the 3rd hit, so my advice would be to avoid using the shield in this fight and instead practice your footwork. Banemann's signature move, that spinning whirlwind attack, cannot be blocked, so don't try. This is a fast-paced and often brutal melee, but there is a slight strategy to this fight. Landing a heavy attack with a one-handed weapon staggers the Jarl just long enough for you to wind up and land another, and another, and another. Once defeated, Jarl Banemann drops the fire artifact. The enslaved human clans of old relied on the guidance of a caste of spiritual leaders, druids who were eventually corrupted by the Jotun, unlocking the forbidden runes which stole the dead from Helheim. Out of all these necromancers, Skeletroll stood above as being far more brutal and cunning than any priest figure. A violent spirit that proved itself as both a warlock and a mighty warrior. Skeletroll was the nightmare of old, a commander of an immortal host of warriors. The great necromancer Skeletroll, still the best name ever, is found at the large cemeteries, not the small ones, and is closely guarded by a company of his cursed warriors. As always, be sure to clear the area out before summoning this fallen druid. Unlike the other bosses, Skeletroll is adept in the use of magic. He doesn't chase you down, nor does he try to overwhelm you with brute strength. Skeletroll's primary attack is to launch orbs of raw magic towards you. These do next to no upfront damage, but they will leave a nasty curse on you. It can stack twice and eat through your health in no time flat. You can avoid these by blocking them with a shield or dodging. You can also line of sight them by hiding behind one of the many obstructions within the graveyard. Skeletroll will do whatever he can to avoid a direct confrontation, so when challenged in melee, he has two tricks up his humerus. The first is to simply slip beneath the veil of the world, reappearing where your guard is down. After he vanishes, quickly scan your surroundings for where he's appeared because a magic orb is probably on its way to you. His second trick is to summon an explosive rune beneath your feet. It doesn't hurt that much, but it does throw you to the ground and allow Skeletroll time to reposition. Finally, Skeletroll will occasionally summon a skeleton fighter to aid him, so be sure to take them out before you find yourself outnumbered. Remember, Skeletroll wants you distracted and disoriented, so while focusing down any ads, be on the lookout for his ranged attacks. The best strategy for overcoming this fallen druid is to focus on using heavy attacks, as they do stagger him ever so slightly and cancel his first ranged ability. You can usually get about 2 to 3 of these off before he summons the explosive rune, which cannot be interrupted, so be sure to roll away before it explodes. Once defeated, Skeletroll drops the air artifact. Then is fulfilled Hlyn's second sorrow, when Odin goes to fight with the wolf and Beli's slayer, bright against Surtur. Then shall Frigg's sweet friend fall. Fenrir is found at wolf dens. Clear them out and then destroy these 2 things to summon him. Fenrir is by far the toughest of the 4 mini-bosses to face this early in the game. His attacks have a high chance of inflicting a stacking bleed effect, which can quickly get out of hand. He cannot be staggered, so heavy attacks are completely useless here. And to make matters even worse, at 50% health he'll summon a pack of wolves to help him. So make sure you go into this fight with as much healing potential as possible and grease up that dodge button, you're going to need it. Fenrir has 2 basic attacks, a swift bite and a quick lunge, while his signature attack is an absolutely bullshit jumping attack that is less of a pounce and more akin to being tracked and hit with a homing missile, because he will turn in midair and hit you when you think you're safe. One thing to note about this signature move is he tends to only do it after pacing around like this, so at least you know it's coming. You're probably still going to get hit though. So for this fight, you're going to want to keep moving and play defensive. Dodge often and get into the habit of dodging sideways, not backwards. Dodging to the side affords you a few quick moments for a counter-attack, whereas dodging backwards just puts you in the perfect fighting distance. Remember, the goal here is to not get bitten. Avoid heavy attacks and instead rely only on basic attacks. The damage is roughly the same, but the basic attack has a faster animation, meaning you can often squeeze 2 in before needing to roll out of the way. Try to get into the rhythm of dodge, 2 hits, dodge. Do not get greedy. Finally, keep an eye on Fenrir's health and start pulling your stamina, as well as heal, before it reaches 50%. When he summons that pack of wolves, switch to them immediately. Keep moving and keep playing defensively. Try to keep all the enemies in front of you and do not let yourself get surrounded. Also, try not to backpedal and instead strafe or dodge left and right. Bait the attacks and return with 1 or 2 counter swings before backing off to reposition. If you find yourself taking a lot of hits, just sprint around the den and spam those onions and garlics. You did put them on your toolbar, right? And no, you cannot cheese this fight by hiding on top of the wolf den. They're going to follow you. Once defeated, Fenrir drops the Earth artifact and enough meat to feed an army. And there you have it, the lore behind and how to defeat the 4 mini-bosses currently in Aska. Now go use those artifacts and build the runestones, and check out my runestone guide on screen now to see how best to utilise those buffs. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Cheerio.